Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Damn, that demon butler. When Beato got all hot, I had a perfect chance to corner her. Beato normally acted like she was graceful and above it all, but she actually had a really short temper and got mad easily. Her usual intellect had less of a voice when she got excited. Renove certainly is thinking clearly. He probably gave your opponent some time to cool down. That child grew too stubborn trying to remove your check, and was about to easily let several large pieces go. After all, the first twilight is only a skirmish. The correct move at that time would have been to withdraw. So what does it mean? Did I reach checkmate or didn't I? The child was about to say something and read, "You probably wouldn't have reached checkmate yet, but most likely. You can expect our opponents to resign once they've cooled their heads." You're joking. Even though she hates losing that much? Yes. In a losing battle, it is essential to withdraw your troops as soon as possible to try and minimize your losses. The difficult part is gauging whether it's a losing battle or not. Your opponent's butler seems to have calmly made that decision. Oh well. In other words, she managed to escape by a hair's breadth. Getting checkmate and delivering the final blow won't be that easy for me. However, you should count this as your victory. It seems they barely managed to prevent a large loss, but they certainly sustained considerable damage. The scale of that child's panic ought to make the depths of that wound quite clear to you. Seriously, it feels like she'd start crying if I bullied her anymore. As we talked, Renove returned with Beato, who wore a meek expression. She didn't yet have her usual bold smile, but it looked like the blood wasn't rushing to her head anymore. "Hey, it's your turn. Did you decide on your next move?" "I resign. For now, I will let you have your victory." Beato told me that frankly. It seemed she'd taken a far-sighted view, as though saying, "If you want to laugh, then laugh." It was a bit of a killjoy, and I lost my desire to deliver the final blow. "Well, now that you've resigned, that just means we're even, since my theory and yours can't deny each other. You should treat it more like a tie than a loss. I don't need your disgusting sympathy. I'm telling you that I lost this round. When you find a dog drenched in rain, do you have a sudden urge to whack it with a stick or something?" "Nope, I'm not you." Even though she'd ridiculed me horribly when I showed her signs of defeat, this is the best she got when the tables are turned. I did feel that was pretty cowardly of her, but I decided to act with dignity as the victor and let it slide. Beato resigned. That's the one result of the first twilight. Beatrice couldn't counter my move that one of the six was the culprit, and that person died in an accident. No, she probably could have countered it, but for some strategic reason she admitted defeat. It felt less like I'd won and more like I'd let her slip away at the last second. In a chess match with a witch, battles can be fought solely with pieces known as X, which requires no detailed explanations. Thanks to the devil's proof, I could create as many strange fictions as I wanted and use them as fighters in our argument. But that only works in a chess match with a witch. In our human world, you can't use such abstract theories to explain things. The first twilight was a chain of 6 closed rooms. It certainly may have been possible for a human. Beato wasn't able to deny all possibilities. However, I don't have a clue who committed the crime, or why, or how they actually did it. It may seem strange to hear me saying this after I won, but for some reason I felt like I'd have been more satisfied if Beatrice had been able to say definitely that it was impossible for humans. It's mainly because you're still wondering about the question, but then the day is this. We don't have to prove our way is right. We just have to prove that it's not a 100% certainty that hers is correct. We just have to create even a 0.1 percentage chance. We just have to make some sort of exception to some sort of airtight rule to where, like, okay, there has to be some way. I managed to avoid specifics using an abstract piece called X, but I couldn't deny the sense that some eerie intent that must never be known was filling up this entire mansion. It'd be kind of like saying you find out about the stuff like Ted Bundy, and you're like, initially like, oh, it was magic or something, and you just originally, and then you look more and you're like, no, it was done by humans, but this doesn't make you feel any better at all. It's like, oh, no, it wasn't magic or demons, it was just some really fucked up people. It's like, oh, that doesn't make me feel better in any way. When being besieged, your true enemy isn't so much the fear of an unseen culprit as it is keeping such fears alive for long periods of time. Maria got bored and started complaining that she wanted to watch some TV. There was no TV in the lobby, so she decided to return to the cousin room on the second floor. The adults probably wanted to make sure Maria wasn't left on her own. They told all the children to go to the second floor cousin room. George, who was grief-stricken by the loss of his fiancée, led the cousins up to the second floor without any resistance. At first, Nanjo had been reading a book in the lobby, but when he noticed the relatives looking like they wanted to discuss something sinister, he said, "It seems I am in the way," and returned to his room on the second floor. Got some 7-Up here. It's really nice. I'm starving, and if we just keep sitting around, we'll get sleepy too. It's only natural. We didn't get any sleep at all last night. We will probably end up being barricaded here for a full 24 hours. It may be wiser to take naps in turn instead of overstressing ourselves. True. My husband and I will remain here, so I ask that anyone having trouble staying awake take it easy and rest. Our opponent might be expecting that, right? Even if they couldn't defeat this many people, if that number shrinks enough, they may plan to use that moment to strike. There are 7 of us here. So we could take 3-hour shifts in pairs. Tomorrow morning's a long way off. We still have some energy now, but tonight's going to be tough. Sure will. Anyone sleepy, don't overdo it and get some rest. Hideyoshi looked around at everyone to see who wanted to sleep first, but no one volunteered. Everyone was just as tired, but no one was bold enough to go sleep right away. Their fear of the unknown culprit was just as strong as their sleepiness. Nobody? Well, don't overdo it, everyone. Couldn't we just, all sleep in this room? If we get tired, we'll deal with it then. I'll admit I'm sleepy, but I'm not in the mood now. As Ava spoke sharply, she reread the second letter from Beatrice, which had been found in the boiler room. Beatrice had sent them 2 letters, which had repeatedly told them to solve the riddle of the epitaph, and she'd even provoked them with saying she'd give up her assets and the headship if they could solve it. Ava took out a notebook and opened it to a page with the epitaph copied onto it. Is this the epitaph? Yes. I hate doing what the culprit says, but we do have time to waste. I think it's the perfect way to stave off boredom. Not a bad way to kill time. Why don't we challenge it together as siblings? Can I borrow that? I'll rewrite it just a little larger. Natsui-san, do you have a slightly larger piece of paper? There should be paper in the servant room. I will bring some. Natsui immediately brought A blank B4 sheet of paper from the servant room. Kyrie borrowed Ava's notebook, wrote out the epitaph on the paper, and laid it out on the table. Then everyone quickly peered down at it. They automatically formed a crowd. I've heard about it, but really this is a tough riddle. I don't have a clue what it's talking about. At one point I also did my best to solve it, but I was just as clueless. If you did know, you wouldn't have come all the way out here with the plan to make money. After all, it's 10 tons of gold we're talking about. This is the first time I've read it through it seriously, but roughly speaking, couldn't it be split into 3 parts? I've been thinking this since last night, but you really are a good thinker, Kairi-san. Perhaps you'll be able to easily solve this riddle that we couldn't? Yeah. Kairi's sharp. She might find a more interesting take on it if she comes in without any confusing biases. That's right. Kairi-san, would you mind giving us your honest opinion after reading the epitaph? I doubt you'll find it useful. You all give me too much credit. Again, I have to say out to everyone here, Kairi, definitely the most beautiful. Also, I like her personality and her intelligence, so. She's got a nice face. Body's nice, also. Just staring at her boobs. That's fine, just say whatever comes into your head. Let's hear your thoughts. The hints you give always help me out when I'm worried. Oh, so I have been helpful? It's nice to finally hear about this now. Come on, don't I always thank you? You two sure are close. I'm jealous. And the rest of us would also love to hear these hints of yours. We're just killing time anyway, so relax, okay? Kairi was disturbed at being praised so highly for something so strange, but they had all the time in the world. Realizing that this was just a waste of time, she decided to accept the role she'd been given. I'm sure I'll say something off the mark, but... Well, I'll put forward my ideas. Indeed. What did you mean in the beginning about how it could be divided into 3 parts, roughly speaking? Well, I just mean what I said. I think that overall the epitaph can be divided into 3 sections. First, there are 5 lines up until there sleeps the key to the gold. Up until this point is the first part, which directs you to the location of the key. And then there's the part formed by the 11 lines up into the 10th twilight, which refer to the location of the Golden Land itself. The remaining 6 lines make up the part after the Golden Land has been reached. I see. It can be divided into 3 parts about the key, the Golden Land, and the Golden Land's treasure. Even we have been able to grasp that much. 3 sections that refer to the key, the door, and the treasure. Nissan, don't butt in any more than you have to. Let Kairi-san speak her ideas freely. Kairi, please continue. We see it the same way you do so far. So then... I wonder about the meaning of the thing that in the beginning, my beloved hometown. Normally that would refer to where grandfather lived, right? Since father went to all the trouble telling us that it's beloved, we can imagine that it's a hometown he had strong feelings for. Did father come from Odawara? Odawara is definitely where he was born, but I don't think that's the hometown he loved. I imagine all of his siblings have the same place in mind, right? This probably isn't Odawara. From what I've heard, he had a very fun time as a youth. Aha! Being made the Ushiromi head family was probably Dad's greatest bit of misfortune in life. Probably. Father didn't actually want to become the head. So where is this place? Is there a river? There where sweet fish swim. Maybe there was at the time. There's been a lot of development since then, and the sweet fish might have disappeared. It would be extremely difficult to investigate whether sweet fish were there during grandfather's boyhood years. And there probably wasn't just a single river. I believe we all gave this a thorough investigation geographically. You even went to the actual place to investigate directly, right, Ava? That was only as a vacation, but the townscape had changed completely since Father's time. After all, it was caught up in that war, wasn't it? By now, even precisely locating the place Father lived is impossible. I imagine that Father went there himself. Even he wouldn't be able to pick out the place he had lived anymore. Well, after all those guys have been gone through a remarkable recovery, does the part of a Sweetfish River bring any place name clearly to mind? Well, yeah. After all, they're sweetfish, right? People say they live in rivers with clean water, so there are countless rivers that might work. Any stream Dad instantly went sweetfish fishing in probably was buried by the development later on. It'd be different if we had a map from before the war, or a person who knew a lot about how the area was before the war, but it probably isn't something like that. What do you mean? Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the Golden Land follow its path downstream and search the key. After the two lines, there's a single blank line. Something is being presented with just these two lines. What if the next three lines continue based upon that something? What do you mean something is being presented? I don't know. At any rate, what we can get from these two lines alone isn't something vague, like the question of which river it might be, but the clear presentation of the key word, river. It may be that this isn't a river with water flowing down it. The Sweetfish River might be some kind of metaphor. What sort of impressions does the word sweet fish give? Sweet fish are like salmon. They're freshwater fish, but they go into the ocean right after they're born. When they get big, they go back to the river to live there, and then they spawn there and end their lives there. Well, they leave their home at one point, but when they get big, they come back and lay eggs. Might be able to link that to the idea of clan prosperity. Oh, they're freshwater fish, but they can live in the ocean. I didn't know that. I figured river fish wouldn't be able to live in the sea. And they are called sweetfish because they have a pleasant aroma. I have never eaten one, but I have heard they can be quite delicious when grilled with salt. What's that, Natsui-san? You never eaten a salt-grilled sweetfish? They're delicious. You should try it sometime soon. It is a food for commoners, hardly appropriate for your mouth. This is just my wild idea, but the impression I get from Sweetfish River makes me suspect a family tree. The sweetfish go out into the ocean for a long time, but they return to the river where they were born to spawn, right? It reminds me of myself. You're right. By this point, I can confess that I've sometimes suspected that it refers to you and Maria-chan. I see. As you travel down the river, you will see a village. If you go down the family tree and all you find is Maria's name, only her name is read as Rie or Sato, the character father uses for village, is here. Isn't that right? But as you all know, father doesn't like Maria, and he almost never speaks with her. And in the past, father told me to give Maria a completely different name. I just decided to go with Maria on my own. Father was very mad about that, given that it's very hard to imagine that he would reference Maria's name in the precious epitaph about who would succeed his wealth and inheritance. Okay, I know it may not be... Okay, I rephrase. I was about to say I know it's not going to be related to our discussion, but I'm pretty sure it is. What was he originally wanting to name her? Have you ever let Maria-chan read the epitaph? Yes, of course. But she seemed to have no idea what the answer was. She didn't have a clue, and she kept going on and on about some occult stuff, and about how it was a resurrection ceremony for the witch. A connection between father and Maria. Certainly, they do share that occult hobby, but they never interacted. I still say, like, Kumasawa was the original Beatrice. He then fucked her and made the golden hair Beatrice. And then he then fucked her, and then Rosa had a different mom than the rest. And then at some point, something, I don't know, was saying Kenzo's not exactly been a good person. No matter how you draw conclusions on this. Certainly they do share that occult hobby, but they never interacted. I can't imagine if that refers to Maria either. What sticks out to me is how he went out of his way to add beloved to that first line. Like all of you said just now, if Father was reluctant about becoming the Ushiromi family head, would he have been fond memories of anything connected to that? I don't think this can be Odawara, which represents Ushiromi family head. I believe that was where beloved here at the beginning must refer to a place of very important memories to Father. Well, that's fine. It would be hard to pinpoint since we don't have any trace of map from that time. But at any rate, there probably were several rivers of sweet fish swimming in them Dad's hometown during his youth. That's if we're looking for a river of water flowing down, right? And then, go on, Kairi-san. I don't really understand the 3 lines starting as you travel down it. You will see a village. It's probably linked to the 2 lines of Sweetfish River. I imagine it's something we'd understand automatically if we knew what Sweetfish River really was. Until we figure out what that is, it's probably useless to try and solve the 3 lines any further. So we're stuck unless we know what the Sweetfish River really is. And there's no guarantee it even really means a literal river. Seriously, what's up with the sweetfish? Did Dad like to eat them? Or does it have some special meaning? Is it pointless to read too deeply into it? If you don't have both a micro and a macro perspective, your field of vision grows narrow. It might be better to be flexible and avoid thinking too deeply. Focusing on an abstract image of a river where fish swim or something like that can flow up or down. Then the answers behind the Sweetfish River passes through the next 3 lines, makes it a way to the key to the Golden Land. If you think about it that way, I wonder if it was a mistake to split it into 3 parts. There's actually 4 parts. Go down the Sweetfish River, find the key to the Golden Land, journey to the Golden Land, and the treasure of the Golden Land. Truly intriguing. Well, you've gone this far. Would you mind continuing and telling us your opinion on the most central portion of the epitaph up to the point where we reach the Golden Land on the 10th twilight? That's the most symbolic and also the most disturbing part. Since the word sacrifices keep coming up, I can't help but think it has something to do with Father's occult ceremonies. How do you see it, Kairi-san? Kairi recrossed her arms several times, peering into the paper with the epitaph copied onto it as though she was looking through it. This is very difficult. It starts with the one who obtains the key, so you probably won't be able to continue without knowing what that key means. I'll have to give up on that, but I'll take a shot at trying to solve it anyway. Just like how Sweetfish River isn't necessarily a river with water flowing down it, it's also doubtful that the key is actually something shaped like a key. Right. It might also be a code or a keyword. It's a set of Dragon Balls. After all this key isn't something to be stuck into a keyhole. It's something that selects 6 people to be sacrifices for the first twilight. In that sense, we can say for sure that this key isn't being used to open the door to the Golden Land. But what a disturbing key it is, a key that can choose 6 human sacrifices. How would a key select anything? Do you spin like a roulette? This key indicates a certain group of 6 people. No, we should say it indicates a certain group of 6 things. If this doesn't mean a literal command to offer sacrifices, for example, it could be an anagram. An anagram? Do you mean playing with letters? Yes. I've been thinking about it ever since Rosa started talking about the family tree. And about how village was part of Maria Chan's name. What's that saying? Oh, I can't remember. Damn it, I can't remember what that saying is. It's something where it talks about how riddles and even jokes can work in one language but not another. And there's some example of this that uses like several... It's a small sentence and it uses several words that... I forget what the saying is. But like one of the words uses in the English language the word like. For example, the word like can mean... Wait, I think I'm starting to remember it. Something... I forget what it is. I know it's something something flies like something fruit. Like banana fruit fries like. It's... I forget the whole sentence, but I know like it's a play on multiple words. It only works in English. It uses the word fly and the word like, but it uses them in two separate ways, to where you only understand the meaning of the words via the context. There's, like the fruit flies like, is it uses, in that part it uses flies in terms of the insect. And then like as the word of preference. Whereas the other part is something, it's like using the word fly as in soaring through the air, but also as similar to. So I mean, I forget what the sentence is. And I'm pretty sure if I try to type it into Google, Google won't fucking understand what I'm trying to say. I don't know, let's try it. Let's see if fucking AI can understand my random fucking attempt at memory. Okay, we'll hop onto Google. And AI wins. It's fly like fruit flies like. Is a playful twist on the classical phrase, time flies like an arrow, meaning time passes quickly, but the variation highlights that fruit flies, tiny insects, are attracted to fermenting produce like bananas, showing different meanings for flies, verb versus noun, and like comparison versus attraction. And that's the thing, like they sound the same, but they mean different words. For example, flies. The word fly or flies can be a verb or a noun. You can be talking about the action of soaring through the sky, or you can be talking about, the person, place, or thing that is an insect. Same way, like can mean, it says here comparison versus attraction. Though the way I said what comparison is, like the way it says it here, the way it says it here is like comparison versus attraction. But the way I described comparison is saying similar to. And the way I defined my word for attraction is preference for. So we're talking about the difference between saying something is similar to something as opposed to something is in preference of something. It's whether or not we're comparing something, or it's like whether or not we're comparing two things, or we're talking about something liking another thing. Fly like fruit flies like. But obviously, like, while that makes complete sense in English, if you change that into any other language, both in terms of the air quotes intellectual idea as well as the humor of it, are completely destroyed. It's any amount of like philosophy or scientific anything, as well as any point you're trying to make and any kind of humor or joke you're making, is completely lost if you translate it to any other language. Roses start talking about the family tree, about how village part of Marie Chan's name. It seems ever since the words beloved hometown came up, Rudolph, for example, has been assumed. They have to point to some coordinates or some geographic features, but that might not be the case. This could be some kind of puzzle, or maybe playing with letters. Forgive me, but how does one play with letters? Oh well, it's like sucker, marry, barrels. What do you get when you take out the E's and the R's? Like that. Oh, you fucking asshole. It took me a second to look through the words and like, okay, what happens if I take those letters out? I'm like, you bastard. Suck my balls. Okay, so Rudolph is Eric Cartman. Well, you were raised well, Natsui. So you probably don't know. Mary? Take out the E's and R's, huh? Stop it. It's an undignified game, inappropriate for you. Only Natsui didn't get it and had a blank look on her face. I mean, I did it first, too. And thankfully, I had the convenience of having the words on screen so I could just look at them and like, okay, take those letters out. And I was like, huh. And then I was like, oh, shit, you fucking bastard. It's like, I had that same blank face. I'm looking at it like, huh. It's like, what do you mean? And like, Mary, what? And then I take the letters. I look at it, I'm like, you fucking asshole. Suck my balls, Kyle. Oh my god, he's married to a woman named Kyrie. Suck my balls, Kyrie. It seemed she'd only guessed that the answer had to be something undignified. Going by Rudolph and Adolph's sniggers. Natsune-san, it's something like this. This is just something from Maria's book of riddles, okay? There's this thing called a Tanuki notebook. Why are we talking about raccoons now? Why am I imagining a VTuber of giant tits? It's a notebook written like a code with a lot of tas mixed in. And if you remove all the tas, then the true paragraph pops up. It's a game like that. Oh, I see. Natsui finally realized the answer to the undignified riddle. Rudolph had posed and her face grew red as she hung her head in embarrassment. So maybe kill actually means remove in that sense, right? Yes. I also thought that. It's possible the key to the Golden Land is a word with 6 characters. In other words, the ta from Tanuki notebook is actually 6 characters here. This is getting complicated. Playing with the letters, is it? In Japan, it really feels like a child's game, but it's apparently a stylish form of humor among intellectuals in the English world. It is easy to imagine that father was interested. I mean, he is really into the Western stuff, so I guess. By this point, I quickly lose my ability to understand it. Up until this point, it may have been filled with mysteries, but it was extremely sequential. Sweetfish River, go down it, then find the key. All of that is extremely sequential, and as a result, we can guess that we gained all 6-character key. Gain a 6-character key. But in that case, we don't know what we kill the 6 characters from. That's right. Where do we pull the 6 characters from? It doesn't tell us. On that second toilet, there are those who remain. Which means, at the very least, that something has a limited number of characters. You could read it like it's telling you to continue with the remaining characters after the first 6 characters are removed. And yet, we don't know what this something is, even though it should have been shown to us at the beginning. And here's another thing. Is this... like, I know the author of this is like originally a person who speaks Japanese, right? Like... a lot of these like word puzzles are they and they're talking about people that are and it's about Japanese people that have an affinity for English, which means it's not about, oh, was this meant for one language or the other. It's that while this game was, I believe, originally released in Japanese, it was written by somebody who was bilingual, who was equally fluent in Japanese and English, and wrote the story based on that whoever read it would be fluent in Japanese and English. Now, I would expect that when it was translated English, there may have been a few changes to make it more accessible to people that only speak English and don't speak Japanese. But we're coming at this from an angle of this. In the original Japanese version, it's intended for people that are both the intended audience. The author is bilingual in Japanese and English, and it would make sense that the intended audience for the original story are people that are bilingual in Japanese and English. Whereas in the English translation, the core demographic is people that either speak it's people that speak English as any kind of language, whether it's an only language or a second language, whether the first language be Japanese or something else. But the main point I'm getting here is that any sort of riddles that are based off of English would be actually easier to pick up on since I'm an English speaker, and anything that's based for Japanese would have been more accessible to someone who's an English speaker by this point. But in its original version, it was probably intended for people who knew both languages. I do have an interest in eventually learning Japanese, but I want to learn German first, then Japanese, then French, and then Hebrew. Maybe Latin and Greek if I ever fucking could. But at that point, we're getting way too ambitious for our own good. Are we wrong even in our assumption that this is playing with letters? Everyone crossed their arms and fell silent. Here's the other thing. Who actually wrote this riddle? Is it possible that neither Beatrice or Kenzo know this riddle answer? Everyone crossed their arms and fell silent. I felt like they were about to reach a novel understanding that they hadn't managed before, but they stumbled just one step short. Then Hideyoshi's stomach rumbled heartily. That silence was broken by laughter. Sorry. Strangely enough, by spinning the gears in my head, for a change, my stomach's gone completely empty. Looks like I can't stand missing breakfast. Natsui, isn't there anything to eat here? There should be at least enough set aside for breakfast. I will prepare it. I'm also starving, and I'll bet those brats above us are the same. Still, I doubt there's enough for 18 people, much less... Well, good news there. A third of those people are dead. You only have to feed 12. Much less full 3 meals, right? That's right. It'll be a long journey till tomorrow. Maybe we better take a trip back to the mansion and fish around for some canned food or something in the kitchen. There's nothing more than crackers and snacks here, but if that will be sufficient, I can get them ready for you all. But with this many people, there might not be any left for lunch. That will do for now. It'll get our energy up so we can get food later. Would you mind getting those ready? It looked like the men had been taken over with an appetite that stopped all thought. The atmosphere grew more peaceful and the epitaph investigation team split up for the time being. Later.